So we're going to discuss bad faith actors. So we're all familiar with when people inveigh the accusation that they're another party in a political debate could be a bad faith actor. If we take, say, dialogue as being really important, then the nature of, say, a bad faith actor obviously erodes, acts like a kind of acid on any potential, say, good that could come from such an exchange. And yet and so that's the context, that's the way that we frame it, but then we have got to look at what is beyond the understanding of what constitutes a bad faith actor. So we can say, so the premise that every single person works off, and so this is applied equally to any protagonists, but ultimately to the modern self, as it were, or modern life. That when we presuppose time to be of value, we take that on faith. All right, we don't question the nature of the nature of what time is when we invest it with a value, because we see it marginally, but in turn, through the marginality of time, we discount the claim that's made on it. And so this is universally applied, irrespective of the person that would say that the other is, say, practicing a bad faith. So the context, so I always say that if you are listening to people talk about stuff, but they don't give context to the way how time's given to you, then you won't reflect upon, say, for instance, now when you're listening to me, understand the nature of the way how time's given. So if you're spending your time as leisure to listen to somebody talk shit like I'm doing, then obviously it's a pastime. So you've secured that time as a leisure, all right, but leisure secured is no less the economic good for your doing so. So that's in reference to the marginality, or what is described as the disutility of your labour. So you are orientated towards the marginality of your time, so invest your time as a means towards the end of leisure. But the issue here is what is transcendent to that is the fact that labour or leisure, or the marginality of your time when it's given as an economic good, or you presuppose it to be of value, the value is always in reference to what you sell yourself on, which is ultimately legitimizes the credit that you use in order to substantiate your actions as money making. That means to say that you produce yourself as a credit instrument or as the principal product of our civilizational domain. So that's through existential arbitrage. And so existential arbitrage is that you get sold on the risk-free proposition because you see life marginally, and so you are fed visions to entrain your vision as to where you are. Now, what I'm trying to do is to give context to where you are. You're obviously beholden to the no place for the market for your time, because if you're orientated towards time as a thing, as it were, as an economic good or a resource, well, you literally cannot be spatially orientated towards it, so you're ultimately beholden to it. And if you're beholden to it, you're acquitting yourself of the truth claim that time is of value. But because you sell yourself on the marginality of time, or in reference to what you do, you discount the transcendentalism that you acquit yourself of. And this is the issue. Means to say that you are an adherent of a faith and you don't know the nature of it. And so when you're looking at the accusation that a person is acting in bad faith, well, that's the context. So what would that mean for both the parties in that are engaged in, we would say, some kind of conversation or dialogue where something is meant to be at stake? Now, we would say it's got to be the truth. We would like to think that if you're a good faith actor, then you're orientated towards discovering what is the truth of the matter. But by default of the presupposition of our time and the way how any conversation is framed, that is completely and utterly removed. So there's nothing, if you're not having this conversation, which is ultimately what we're doing, there is no way that you can get to the truth of the matter of your existential status or the potential for change, because you discount it, okay? So if you think of, like, let's look at religious, say, dialogue. So you're having a good faith argument between a Muslim or a Christian, or it doesn't. Let's say you're Muslim or Christian. All right, so what do they work off? They work off the basis that they're engaged in the truth of the claims of their religious dogma, but to the exclusion of questioning their existential status when, let's say, for instance, of the nature of the way how time's given to them. So that is foundational, and this goes for literally any form of discourse that you could be engaged with. So, and this is philosophical as well, because it's got nothing to do with philosophy if you're not looking at the way. And Heidegger's kind of probably the one that's looked at the question of time, but hasn't drilled it down into, because he never questioned the nature of, really never looked at economics in any kind of way. He got as close as to, calculation is not thinking, because through calculation you discount the presencing of the self. And so because he never took issue with money or the credit that we use, how can you ever approach the issue of what is the truth of the matter, as much as that you get close to it through looking at, well, the nature of the way how time's given to us. But if you can't look at that, if time is given as a resource or a thing and you handle it, well, it's in reference to the way how you acquit yourself of the transcendentalism of the truth claim that time is a value or is marginal. And so any form of debate, all right, and so that's supposedly at stake. So you got God is at stake, let's say, within a Christian kind of Muslim dialectic, as it were. Supposedly that, one invades against the other, that, the nature of God or whatever, all the doctrines. But doctrines is in reference to the context. Now, if both the people that are engaged with it are both consumers, okay, and you'd have to say, well, of course they are. They use a means of exchange, all right? So they through their actions, they discount presencing of actually the God that they wax lyrical about. It's fucking hilarious. So once again, they profess faith, okay? So, but what's the faith that they ultimately profess? It's the faith that both of them profess is what they share. And yet, because their faith, what they would think would be their faith, is derivative to that one, then you have the engagement of basically what is a bad faith argument, irrespective of whether or not they act in good faith to uncover the truth of the matter. The truth is derivative to the questioning that would reveal that truth is contingent, as it were. Why? Well, once again, the form of life is discounted through our actions. And so therefore, if you don't question the nature of your existential status, all right, then you'll invest in your faith, so whether or not you're Muslim in this case, as a value add to the bias genie that's been set for it. Now, people would find this extremely offensive, because how would they say, well, my faith is somehow subordinate to a faith let's say another faith? But this is the issue. This is the lie. This is the conceit. The fact is that they don't know that they're practices of a bad faith or a religiosity, and so therefore they can invest in the faith that they're the adherents of. So what you have is that you have a double-bound religiosity, and yet because people are oblivious to it, they will invest in their faith to discount that. And that's why you can say in that the question of religion, we're using this as an example, discounts questioning the status of even that conversation or the nature of what is at stake here. What would be at stake here? Nothing, just orthodoxy, apostasy, religious dogma. That's literally all it is. So if you take that reference, then it means to say that both people are acting under bad faith, because they're both the adherents of a faith that they cannot acknowledge or recognize. And so as much as that we like to say that secularism is somehow divergent from say, a religious kind of creed, well, it's not when you think of that if secularism means to say that you've removed the question of God, and yet ultimately God finds a home within the transcendentalism when you presuppose time to be a value, it works in exactly the same way. But it's more virulent because it doesn't have an orthodoxy that people are aware of, because they live their life in a way where they're sold ultimately not to see. So we can say that whenever you're looking at people engaged and you've got this showcase or you've got this event of two thinkers talking to each other, engaging in what would be good faith conversation, it's predicated upon discounting questioning. So this is the thing. So it doesn't matter what kind of nature of the questioning would be, other than what we cover. If it's a political debate, know that there's nothing at stake. If it's somebody that's sermonizing, no, there's nothing at stake. If it's a scientist even talking about cosmology, no, there's nothing at stake. There's nothing at stake with these conversations, because ultimately, once again, you're not questioning your existential status for you to be even in the position to actually listen to what the person would say. And so the discounting of that questioning enables bad faith to be regioned as a pejorative term, to be held at whoever when they are acting not under the good faith that's required in order to uncover some kind of truth. But if the truth is existentially grounded in your status, the fact that you're a credit instrument, and so your credit in this context is just to hear. All right, are you not? Your hearing is in reference to what? Is it potentializing actions? Let's give the benefit of the doubt that you have these people that talk about whatever it may be, and that's in reference to you become an agent for change. Well, what change would that be? All right, so if you're not questioning your existential status when you're given as a demand center, an interchangeable economic unit, what change could you be orientated towards? Literally, would it not be just the value to the non-questioning attendant to the way how these people get you to think? All right, or are they getting you to think as in what is truly thinking, or are they getting you to adhere to a form of dogmatism that you are completely and utterly unaware of, because they are? So what they do is they become literally the mouthpieces for what I call existential propaganda, or our unavowed religiosity. And so the tenets of our faith is through what people would think that they're engaged in good faith conversation, but through that they're completely discounting the questioning necessary to see the potential of their actions beyond the way how that they produce themselves as the credit instrument that they're given as. And if you don't know the way how the world works is in reference to the way how you produce yourself as the credit instrument or demand center that you're given as, then it's not foundational, and it's continuing to discount. And this is on a civilizational basis, might I add. And so this is not to say that, that the people are engaged in a rhetorical kind of like gymnastics, as it were. I mean, this is, once again, you can have two people that are engaged with a conversation that is it's based on a sound principles of integrity and obviously engaging in what the person has to offer without insults or any of the other tactics that that would be utilized in order to say color the conversation or to skew it or to misrepresent. So that's not, you step beyond basically the way how people would understand a bad faith actor and look at it just purely from the fact that you have two people engaged with, say, a conversation that is on good faith. They're still bad faith actors, though. This is the problem with it. And so this leaves us with the uncomfortable truth that if you don't question the nature of the production process, then whenever somebody talks to you about anything, and this I mean anything, then ultimately there is a questioning yet to be asked. Questions are yet to be asked, and so in turn you have to be wary of what the person is trying to sell you. I mean, everybody's trying to sell you shit, and so I always say, be cynical when I'm talking about this shit. Am I trying to sell you something? Is there a grift fucking going on here? Anyway.